Hello friends, welcome back to Raju Notes channel, your weekly current affairs update. Today we will do the updates from 7th of May to 14th of May 2022. The first news is coming from Hong Kong. Beijing hailed the near unanimous result on Sunday of its election of John Lee as the new leader for Hong Kong, and he is supposed to replace the incumbent leader Carrie Lam as a chief executive on 1st July. Surprisingly, Lee was the only candidate in this election and he secured 1,416 votes, comfortably surpassing the 751 marks he needed to win. So it was less of a voting and more of a dictator kind of a ship. And we all know that China is now putting its more and more claws onto Hong Kong, and we have recently seen that how US has put sanctions on this gentleman John Lee in 2020 for his role in implementing Beijing imposed national security law that had crushed the city's democratic movement. Let's see how will his election as a Hong Kong's new leader brings about any kind of a geopolitical maybe ups and downs in near future. This week, Rupee has hit its all-time low of 77.42 against US dollar. The Indian rupee breached the 77 per dollar mark for the first time amidst the elevated crude oil prices and a widening trade deficit. The rupee was trading at 77.42 per dollar as per its previous closing. The hawkish stance of the US Federal Reserve has resulted in hardening of the US bond yields, with the dollar index strengthening to 20 years high. The RBI has been aggressive in its interventions in the foreign exchange market and was seen protecting these rupees 77 per dollar level in the past as well. So we can just start seeing how the petrodollar is making its effect onto the market, with now Russia buying its majority of oil in rubles. The Supreme Court on Tuesday granted 3 months' time to Centre to hold the consultations with various state governments on the issue of granting minority status to Hindus in the states where they are outnumbered by other communities. A bench headed by Justice Sanjay Krishna Kaul said it does not appreciate the Centre's changing its stand on the plea seeking minority status for Hindu in some states. It further said more thought should have gone before finalizing the affidavit and asked the Centre to undertake the consultative process. The bench had told the Centre that if it wants to hold consultation with states with regards to granting minority status to Hindus where they are outnumbered by the other communities, then it should do so. This is a very controversial thing as of now. I may be wrong in saying controversial, but yes, it will have a far-reaching ramifications in the Indian subcontinent for sure. Let's see how will either the Centre deal with this or the courts deal with this particular topic. In the latest news, it is seen that the Chinese President Xi Jinping is suffering from cerebral aneurysm, and he was hospitalized as per the reports, and he is reportedly saying that he wants to be treated with traditional Chinese medicines rather than going for surgery. And like Putin, Xi's health is also in some kind of trouble, and I don't know whether it's a coincidence or not, but yes, he is certainly suffering from a aneurysm. Now, what is brain aneurysm is that it's basically a bulge or a ballooning of a blood vessel in the brain, and it is likely that once the ballooning of the blood vessel happens, it starts growing and it can lead to a leak or a rupture, causing bleeding in the brain. Most often, ruptured brain aneurysm occurs in the space between the brain and the thin tissue covering the brain. So this kind of a rupture may be becoming a life-threatening thing if not treated at the earliest. So I'm not I'm not saying anything, but both the communist leaders of Russia and China are in some kind of health issues. What will be the status of the world if there is suddenly a void in these two countries? A question to think about. What do you think? Just do put your comments in my comment section. The Supreme Court on Wednesday directed the center and states to keep in abeyance all pending trials, appeals and proceedings with respect to charges framed under Section 124A of the Indian Penal Code, which is often called as sedition law. And the Supreme Court said that the central government should complete the promised exercise to reconsider and re-examine this provision. I have already prepared a detailed, or I must say 5 minutes quick video on what a sedition law is. I shall be uploading it immediately after I upload this particular video. Please do stay on my channel and see the complete video on sedition in 5 minutes. In a few parts of Kerala, a new virus known as tomato flu has been detected after the COVID-19 pandemic. Almost 80 children in the Kollam city of Kerala have been diagnosed with the tomato flu, and it is spreading rapidly. All the cases that are confirmed have been diagnosed in children below 5 years. It is recognized as tomato flu because it causes tomato-shaped blisters on the body. The children diagnosed with the tomato flu are experiencing fever, rashes, skin irritation, and some children are also suffering from dehydration. The increasing effect of tomato flu in Kollam and the neighboring districts like Mangaluru, Udupi, Kodagu are also on high alert. So if you are in the nearby areas, please do take care of these small kids. And as far as the prevention is concerned, as of now, the cause of tomato flu is still unknown to the health officials, and they are still investigating it, and this has been seen only for children below 5 years. And as per the doctors, as soon as the symptoms are diagnosed, please take a child to a doctor. Dehydration is also a cause for tomato flu as of now, what doctors are thinking. So please keep your child or the smaller, your grandson or daughter hydrated at all times, including with the tremendous amount of heat wave which is sweeping across the country. Jammu and Kashmir separatist leader Mohammad Yasin Malik on Tuesday pleaded guilty to all charges, including those under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, called as UAPA, before the Delhi High Court in a case related to alleged terrorism and secessionist activities that disturbed the valley in 2017. Malik did not have a lawyer to fight his case, as he had not contested the charges leveled against him, including the UPA Section 16 of Terrorist Act, 17 of raising funds for terrorist acts, 18 of conspiracy to commit terrorist act, and 20 being a member of terrorist gang and organization, plus the sections of 120B criminal conspiracy and 124A sedition of IPC. So probably the IPC section 124A might not be put onto him because of the Supreme Court Act, but the rest all sections have been passed, and he has accepted to this fact. So the special judge Praveen Singh will hear the case on May 19th, and the arguments regarding the quantum of sentence for the offences leveled against Malik, in which maximum punishment is life imprisonment. So a detailed order in this matter is awaited from the court. Now news coming in from Pakistan. With more than 300 billion Pakistani rupees stuck up in dues, more than 24 Chinese firms operating in Pakistan have said that they will be forced to shut down their power plants in the month unless the payments are made upfront. This revelation came at a meeting presided over by the Minister of Planning and Development, Ashan Iqbal, with more than 30 Chinese companies operating under the flagship multi-billion-dollar CPAC in various areas, including energy, communication, railways, and other reports. So there are allegations and counter allegations between Pakistan and China, but see the China showing its true colors as of now, and it is now going as into the Sri Lankan way. Now Pakistan is no way in a position to clear the 300 billion Pakistani rupees to these Chinese companies. So China will now slowly capture, take, lease some land, some part of the Pakistan. We know that this has been the tactics, and probably now after Sri Lanka, we are very sure Pakistan will also get into the crisis mode. India was looking at tapping new markets from import of edible oils following the conflict between Ukraine and Russia, as per Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. According to her, the country was facing various hurdles on import of edible oils due to the conflict. Everyone knows there is a war going on between Russia and Ukraine, and there are various hurdles in terms of importing oils. And we are not able to import edible oil, as we were getting majority of sunflower oil from these two countries, basically from the Russia and Ukraine. So and now with recently the Indonesia also putting a sanction on its export of the palm oil, India is now looking for other countries. But the question here is that should we still be looking for the other countries, or should we or not become Atmanirbhar in this particular area as well, and look for areas which are suitable for cultivation of palm trees, and India becoming self-sufficient in this matter as well. A news now coming in from Ukraine. Just see the analysis how this thing is turning out. More the Ukrainian soldiers have began howitzer training at a Germany artillery school on Wednesday, where they will spend the next 40 odd days learning how to use the heavy weapons before they are sent to Ukraine, as per German media. The move comes amid a major policy turnaround by German Chancellor, which faced criticism from Kyiv and other allies for not sending heavy weapons to Ukraine. It might be just a news wherein we are seeing as to how Ukraine are sending its own soldiers for training, but the question mark here is 40 days of howitzer training, and thereafter they go back to Ukraine. That means Ukraine has already decided that this war is going to continue for another month and a half. And so like we had discussed in the last update, that war only the innocents lose. The bigger game is between US and Russia, then rather both are making money from all these weapons and other things. So keep looking into this aspect as well. Related to the same news is the news of Finland joining NATO, which has been seen as a threat for the Russia, and Russia threatens to retaliate over its membership move. Russia said that it will be forced to take retaliatory steps over its neighbor Finland's move to join NATO. As per Russian Foreign Ministry statement, he said that it would seriously damage the bilateral relations as well as the security and stability in the Northern Europe. Earlier, Finland's president and the Prime Minister had called for the country to apply for NATO membership without any delay. It comes amid a surge in the public support for NATO membership following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It will be pertinent to note that Finland shares about 1,300 kilometers border with Russia. Until now, it had stayed out of NATO to avoid antagonizing its eastern neighbor. But I really don't know what has gone with Finland or what is the pressures. Now suddenly it says that it will join NATO. Now Putin will be forced to also take some kind of an action against Finland. So it is now the survival of the fittest in both the cases. The Indian Army is planning to acquire 12 Swati weapon locating radars, which are indigenously developed by the DRDO at a cost of approximately 950 crores in a major boost for the Army on the China front. The Swati weapon locating radars will help the forces to know the exact location of the RT guns fired by the enemy, and the radars can also simultaneously handle multiple projectiles fired from different weapons at different locations. The Indian Army is also using the same radars for its operations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir, where the system is used to trace the sources of attack by Pakistani position. The system was handed to the Indian Army on a trial basis in 2018, and according to reports, Armenia has also recently acquired these Swati weapon locating radars. Amidst the turmoil in Sri Lanka, in a desperate bid to defuse the ongoing protest following the economic crisis in Sri Lanka, President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has appointed Ranil Wickremesinghe as the new Prime Minister. Wickremesinghe was the senior opposition member of parliament and took an oath as a prime minister to lead a proposed cross-party government for the sixth time. Despite protesters demanding immediate resignation from the president, Gotabaya Rajapaksa ignored the call and vowed to steer the debt-ridden island nation out of the crisis. So far, 9 people have been killed and over 200 injured after his brother and former Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned on Monday. So let's see how does the situation turn out in Sri Lanka after this particular act. Again, update for the students taking the NEET PG 2022 examination. There was a plea that was sought for postponement of NEET PG examination 2022. The Supreme Court has dismissed it, and it has said that the postponing of examination will just create chaos and uncertainty while impacting the patient care and treatment. So anyone who is taking this NEET examination PG 2022, please don't get swayed away by the rumors that it might get postponed or something like that. The government on Tuesday said that India will send trade delegation to 9 countries, including Morocco, Tunisia, Indonesia, to explore possibilities of boosting wheat shipment as it targets to export 10 million tons of grain in 2022-23. And this was because India has suddenly started filling up that gap of the rising demand for wheat due to Russia and Ukraine war. India has, I must say, superbly made itself into a front runner as far as the supply of wheat is concerned. But as I am recording this video, latest news is that India has immediately put a ban on exporting of wheat due to the ongoing crisis in its neighboring states, especially in the states of neighboring countries, in the countries of Bangladesh, Sri Lanka and Pakistan, Afghanistan. So in addition to that, India, I think there is likely to be a more food grain crisis happening soon. So India has put the export to an immediate halt, and maybe it's a kind of a tail twisting technique being used for the world to realize, or maybe it's a bargaining chip to get more fuel at a lesser prices, or maybe it's a bargaining tool to deal with the US. We don't know, but yes, India has developed a potential to export the wheat, and it has now put it on a hold for some reasons. The reason given presently is the crisis in the neighboring states of neighboring countries of India. Scientists have grown plants in the lunar soil for the first time, an important step towards making a long-term stay on the moon possible. Researchers used small samples of dust collected during the 1969 to 1972 Apollo mission to grow a type of cress. every plant, whether in lunar sample or in a control, looked the same way until about 6 days during its growth, and only after 6 days the difference started emerging. The plants grown in the moon soil started to show stress, developed more slowly, and ended up stunted. And however, this is a breakthrough, and this research is very critical to NASA's long-term human exploration goals, as well as need to use resources found on the moon and Mars to develop food source for the future astronauts living and operating in the deep spaces. So basically, this fundamental plant growth research is also a key example as to how NASA is working to unlock agricultural innovations that could keep or help us understand how plants might overcome the stressful condition in food scarce areas here back on Earth as well. It's a good innovation discovery, I must say. Let's see how it works out. The United Arab Emirates President Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan died at the age of 73 on Friday after battling illness for several years. The president of an oil-rich Gulf state, who was rarely seen in public, is likely to be replaced by his half-brother Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed, who was already seen as a UAE de facto ruler. The UAE has announced 40 days of mourning, and India has announced 1 day of mourning with the flags at half-mast. And we know that Sheikh Khalifa took the UAE took over as the second UAE president in November 2004, succeeding his father as the 16th ruler of Abu Dhabi, the richest federation amongst these 7 emirates. Now, president of the UAE and the prime minister, whenever he visited UAE, had been meeting each other, and this has certainly put a dent. Now let's see how the relations between India and UAE move ahead. Well, coming on to our section wherein we see as to what happened in the history this week, that is from 17th to 14th May, what happened in the history of the world. The first one is May 7th, 1861. Rabindranath Tagore was born. A poet, novelist, musician, painter, educationalist, a social reformer. Tagore wore multiple hats with about 80 versatile years to his life. In 1913, he won the Nobel Prize for Literature, becoming the first non-European to win a Nobel. We know Tagore as a man who wrote national anthem, and he was truly a man of whole earth. May 8th, 1945, the World War II ends in Europe. On this day, about 77 years ago, the victory in Europe, VE Day, is marked the formal conclusion of the Second World War in Europe. With it came the end of 6 years of suffering across Europe. Adolf Hitler's prospects were on the continuous decline since the D-Day Normandy landings on June 6, 1944, and Hitler committed suicide on 30th of April during the Battle of Berlin. May 9th, 1866, Gopalakrishna Gokhale was born. This day, about 156 years ago, Gopalakrishna Gokhale was born. He was a moderate leader of the Indian National Congress and the founder of Servants of India Society. He campaigned for the self-rule, but his methods were constitutional, not revolutionary. It was on Gokhale's insistence that Mahatma Gandhi came back to India from South Africa. Gokhale was a liberal whose India existed in the future, not in the golden past. At one point, Muhammad Ali Jinnah wanted to be a Muslim Gokhale. May 10th, 1857, the Great Rebellion of 1857 had begun. On this day, about 165 years ago, the Indian Sipahi of the East India Company's army in the garrison town of Meerut revolted, initiating a revolution that gathered force rapidly. Across the northern and the central India, the mutiny was followed by civilian revolts. Though unsuccessful, the First War of Independence created a sense of nationalhood and led to multiple changes in the way the British governed India. The valor of the warriors of 1857 would inspire India in its freedom struggle and beyond. May 11th, 1998, India conducts nuclear tests at Pokhran. On this day, 24 years ago, India announced that it had carried out 3 underground nuclear tests, and it was the first time India had carried out such tests since 1974. 2 days later, India had carried out 2 more nuclear tests and announced it had finished its testing program. Pakistan retaliated on 28 May with its own nuclear test, stoking fears of an arms race in South Asia. And the code word what India used that time was Buddha has smiled. May 12, 1949, on this day 73 years ago, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit became the first foreign woman ambassador received in the United States. With India's independence, Pandit, who was Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru's sister, started on a distinguished diplomatic career, leading the Indian delegation to UN, serving as India's ambassador to Moscow, Washington and Mexico, and becoming the first woman and Asian president of the UN General Assembly. She was a harsh critic of her niece, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. May 13th, 1981, Pope John Paul II was shot and in the Vatican by a Turkish extremist, Mehmet Akka. The famously tough Polish Pope survived the attack, forgave Akka, and played a dominant role in ending communism in Europe, who ordered the hit on Pope, who has since been made as a saint, remains an unsolved mystery. What is the Soviet Union? Was it an attempt to frame Russians, or was it an internal Vatican job? Well, no one knows till date. May 14th, 1964. On this day, 58 years ago, Egypt's President Gamal Abdel Nasser and Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev inaugurated the first stage in building the Aswan High Dam. The dam would be inaugurated in 1971, a year after Nasser's death. Built over Nile, the lifeline of Egypt, the tussle over its financing triggered the Suez Crisis of 1956. The Russians stepped up when the Americans told Nasser that they do not give a damn. Well, that's where the updates for this particular weekend. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe it and help me out. And I understand it's a longish video, but it will help you out. So I will see you soon next week, every Sunday like this. Till then, take care. Bye bye.